Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Delgado with Hartmetrics Consulting, and I'm excited to be back on the show. Joining me today on Heart Inspired is this incredible coach, Jackie Roby, a seasoned mindset coach, an international speaker, a founder of Inspired Journey Consulting. And this month, or I should say last month in October, she celebrated 4 years. Yay! So welcome back, Jackie. The show is focused on guests who use their voices to inspire and motivate positive change. And my goal is to bring guests like Jackie, whose message will ultimately assist you in making positive change in your own life. So before we get started, today's episode is about finding voice. And as I mentioned, Jackie's an international speaker. So, but here's the twist. Today, we're going to find out how Jackie has gone through the journey of losing her voice, finding her voice, and what she does today to empower others to find their voice. So welcome, Jackie. I'm so excited to have you back. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm grateful to be here, having an extraordinary morning so far.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk about this. When you were young, were you a real vocal child? Were you someone who spoke out of turn, laughed and carried on? Or were you a little bit more reserved? Tell us about what it was like as a child.
Oh, no, I was not vocal at all. I stayed in line. I knew my place, so to speak. I was definitely shy. I'm the youngest of three. I have two older sisters. And being polite and smiling and staying quiet, those were consistently reinforced. So there was no being out of turn. There was no misbehaving. That wasn't even an option in our home.
Strict family upbringing, huh? Upbringing.
Very.
Yeah.
Very, very, very strict.
Yeah. So when you went to school, were you the same way? Did that follow through?
Definitely.
Yeah.
School was a number one priority.
Okay.
So outside of obviously being kind and caring and polite, it was our goal to be straight A students. And actually, very much, again, that wasn't really a choice. We had to be straight A students. So if we came home with a test with a 98, the question from our dad was, where are the other 2 points? And to look at what we got wrong and study it so that we never got that question wrong again.
A lot of pressure. So this is going to be an interesting conversation because you're an international speaker, you run your own business, you're an entrepreneur. There's a lot of work that you must have done to get to where you are today. So before we dive in a little bit further with that is, there's the voices in our head that spin around, and you know that you want to get them out, but somehow they're just, you freeze up, or you just maybe think about, well, we'll do it later, and then later never comes, and then it's all kind of sitting inside you. Tell us what that was like being, I guess, like when we're growing up, it was children should be seen and not heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you have times where you needed to burst out of that? What did you do to kind of combat that?
As a kid, no. I don't think I ever found an outlet that was healthy. Food was a comfort.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
So I come from a Latinx family. I also have Italian in my family. And so eating, it's a big deal and it's encouraged.
Mm.
And we didn't grow up with a lot of money. So when we had celebrations, we would make a party out of nothing. Right. And it's something, it was a gift that my mom really did bring. And my aunts and everyone still talk about it. It's like if you can get a tub of ice cream and, some different sauces, you can have a party. And it was a great way to do things. And then, we celebrate with food. And I would comfort with food. And because I have a diverse palate, I always have actually since I was a kid, I was willing to try anything. And I liked a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, food is love. And it was almost a way of me feeling loved, I think.
Yeah.
And showing it.
Mm. I think a lot of people use vices like food or, in other situations, maybe drugs or alcohol to kind of use that as a comfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're now a little bit older. You're off to college because you had no choice, right? Education was huge in the family. When did you start to realize, you know what, staying silent isn't the best remedy for me, for Jackie? What was that like going through the younger adult, starting to get out on your own journey?
I don't think I realized still how silent I was. In those younger years, I was definitely exploring. I was definitely experimenting. And I was really searching for where I belonged.
No.
And I think about this a lot. Actually, it's interesting. It comes to me a lot these days. I remember going through Rush for sororities. And I always knew I wanted to be in a sorority. And I went through Rush for the sororities. And I remember trying to figure out where I fit among the people in my house and trying to actually mold myself into a different space than where I was. There were some amazing women that I'm still close to today. And initially, they weren't the people that I gravitated towards, or I remember telling myself all of these negative stories. So my voice wasn't even mine at that point. It was just figuring it out, trying to see what fit.
Mm.
I know that I eventually, when you think about all this stuff that you're holding in,
Yeah.
I would get really angry at one of my sisters. And because she was very overprotective of me. And I didn't want that. I just wanted her to be a sister and have a good time with me.
What's the age difference?
2 years.
Wow, that's not a lot. You
No.
must be like best friends.
Right.
Yeah.
But she was really overprotective. And I was also making a lot of dumb mistakes.
Well,
So
that's for another show.
right. In hindsight, she was doing the right thing, but
yeah.
at the time it was so hard. So like I would put my anger towards her. And then it wasn't until my senior year of college, and I started college when I was 16. So my senior year, I was 20, turning 21. And I broke up with a boyfriend who was abusive.
Mm.
And he was mentally and emotionally abusive. So it was a domestic violence situation. I was isolated and I didn't realize what I was in. And so it wasn't until I left him had to get a restraining order, go to court, present evidence because he showed up to contest it, and do all of those steps. It still wasn't there yet. It still wasn't finding my voice. Then from there, got through all of that because that's kind of like the adrenaline of getting through something.
Yeah.
I finally had a moment where I went, you know what? I'm scared to date again.
Wow.
And I don't want this to ever happen. So how do I make sure it doesn't? And I was living in Colorado at the time. I went to a place called Safe House Denver. And Tamika was my counselor, and she taught me about red flags and about boundaries and how to set them. And that is when I started to learn how to use my voice to take care of myself.
That's incredible. So for the audience, and we'll make sure that we have that in the notes, there are places we can go. Let's talk about, if you can share with us, a couple of red flags that women should be aware of. And I say that because we are women focused here today. I'm sure that there are some men that also go through some abuse, but talk about that. And then also talk about how old were you when you were dating? So you were in college at 20. Were you, because, you know, I look at 20 and I have a daughter. That's like still a baby in some ways. You know what I mean? Especially growing up in a Latin family, as you mentioned, that was so strict that your voice was, you know, you had to be kind of restrained in a way. So first tell us how old you were, and then tell us what some of those red signs were.
So I started this relationship with this boy when I was 19. So we were together for a year and a half.
Okay.
I was somewhat of a late bloomer, I guess, when it comes to dating. And it really, very transparently, I wasn't wanted, which is hard to say, but it's factual. I was boy crazy from when I was 3 years old. I had my first crush. But I didn't receive the attention. And so that ended up having me look for it in ways that weren't healthy.
So did you go from food to comfort to boy to comfort?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. You just change the vice up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you were in college in Denver. You were living there at the time. He was with you in Denver?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you met him in college?
No, he didn't go to school with me. I met him at work.
Oh, okay.
I was working at Tower Records at the time.
Okay.
And we met there.
Okay. So 19, very young. Okay. And so tell us what some of the red flags are.
So what you want to look for, I mentioned being isolated. And this is something that can really creep up on you. He doesn't like your friends.
Oh.
He doesn't like your parents.
Yeah.
He doesn't like your family. He doesn't like the people closest to you. And sometimes you're like, okay, there's conflict, personality conflict. That's fine. I can navigate that. Or how can I figure this out? But when it becomes such a consistent conversation that now it makes you uncomfortable. So you don't want to see them, or you don't want to expose him to them because it's just going to be a bigger thing. But then you don't necessarily want to be without them, right? So now you're making this choice. and you're not being able to be around your people.
Yeah, your inner circle that supports you, unconditional love, all those things. And you're playing referee.
Exactly.
And you're in love, and it's probably your first. So you really want to lean this way. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And honestly, you'd be surprised because I see it now among friends that have found themselves in abusive marriages or relationships in this same fashion. So it can happen at any age.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I'm grateful that it happened when I was young because I learned, and it hasn't happened to me in a romantic relationship again. But that's one thing to look for. And that other piece of like the argument, right? When you kind of have this circle conversation around something that you're just not going to bring it up anymore. Because if you do, it's just too much of a hassle for your life.
Yeah.
So why bother?
Yeah.
If you're going to make plans without him and he's sad about it and complaining about it and it becomes this big thing, or when you're out and the entire time you're there, he's texting and calling, you can't get a minute alone, right? It just makes it so why would you even want to leave? That's so frustrating and stressful and just fills you with anxiety. You're just trying to do everything you can to prevent that.
Yeah. Was there fear at any time that the mental and emotional would become physical?
Yes. One time when we got in an argument, because he didn't pick me up from work and I was waiting in the dark outside and ended up taking a taxi. And I was so mad. I remember because I brought him food, I brought him dinner, and I threw the bag at him. Something like, never do. And, you know, and he was making excuses after excuses. And then I ended up calling a friend and asking him to pick me up. And he started to bang on this glass door over and over. And that was really scary for me.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But yet, he begged later that night. He cried. He said that he can't lose me. He would kill himself.
Oh, so a little spatter of guilt for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another sign that we would think about. Because, you know, there's this moment of, oh my gosh, I need to protect this person. I care about them so much. Or, you know, back in, you know, the younger romantic light of things, right? You're like, oh, they love me so much that they're going to do this. Well, that's not actually a healthy thing to say or do. And it really taught me about needing versus choosing.
Oh, say that again.
Needing versus choosing. I say it to my husband all the time. We have been together for 11 years. And I say, I love you more every day. And I choose you. I don't need you, but I choose you.
Yeah. So really important for women to know that. You know, we kind of, for years, grew up with male provider and we need them. And no, we should be choosing ourselves and choosing who we want to be around and choosing who we love. Yeah. Good stuff. So thank you for sharing those. Those are pretty vulnerable moments there. Let's go into your early career. And now, so this is kind of, the chapter's closed, but the wound is still there and there's still a lot of healing. And that's like the work that you're doing today, which is great. So let's move into where you are in a corporate setting and you've got to use your voice, obviously, to conduct business. What are some of the things that you started to realize and change so that you can kind of navigate through that?
Yeah. Well, actually, Michelle, if you'll give me just a hot second of leeway,
Yeah.
my initial voice was lost when I was 3
Mm-hmm.
because I was molested by my grandfather.
Oh, my.
And that went on for quite some time. So that eventually led to all of those other things, or was a contributing factor, right, on the underlying. So now as I find myself in business, I'm working for older men.
Oh,
And I'm in this dynamic again.
yeah.
And I'm trying to please them and keep everybody comfortable and keep
the
everybody
peace.
happy.
Yeah.
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 And
Wow.
at my first career position outside of college, when I started to spend more time with a woman of color who was a leader and learn from her and really enjoy her company, these men that I was working for didn't like it and started to retaliate against me
Mm.
and shame me and belittle me.
So a much more mild version, or not much more, but a milder version of what you experienced at 3 and then at 19.
Yep.
So you're not necessarily healed yet from 3 and 19. You kind of buried a little bit, and now it's just bubbling back up again.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Like,
So how did you deal with that?
well, honestly, I looked for another job.
As many
At that
women
point.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, at that point, that was what I did. And I wanted to create change in my life. And I was also working at a casino. And I was like, let's think about the career path of where this goes and where I can live in the world and what I want my life to look like. Maybe this is more limiting. And ended up in hotels and actually found myself again working for an older gentleman who was completely inappropriate all the time. But I didn't at first acknowledge it because I'm so used to it.
So even though you saw signs from the past, probably the most impactful one were at 19, did you see it as, no, this is different, this is not the same thing, so it can't be happening again? Were you in denial?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. To me, this was just how the world worked. And I didn't see it in the same way. I just thought I need to mind my career. Right? So here's this man that's being completely inappropriate. He's actually not doing his job. I'm doing mine. We're getting into trouble with our corporate office because he's not doing his. I'm doing his work. And it wasn't until that I hired my pledge daughter from my sorority to work for me that she noticed it. And I had that moment like, I have to protect her. And then I started to have different conversations with our corporate office and use my voice that way, which created change. And he eventually, he lost his job. They brought somebody in who was kinder and more collaborative and not inappropriate to work with us.
What I heard there was you became your sister a little bit. Protecting, because your sister must have known some things that were going on, and she knew what trouble you could get into, whether it's self-inflicted or not. And you were doing the same thing. Very interesting. So you've gone through a few corporate jobs, leading us up to it's time. for Jackie to really scream from the rooftops, which you're now doing as a, successful entrepreneur. So the healing continues. The scars are still there. The healing continues. Is there a time where you forgive so that you can heal? Or no?
It's interesting. I actually struggle a bit with the word forgiveness. And it's not something that I really keep in my vocabulary when it comes to these situations.
Is it because the infliction is too painful because I have a hard time with forgiving somebody because they say, in faith, you forgive for yourself. There's always love and all of that stuff. But is it hard for you to understand that forgiveness helps you heal? Is there the disconnect there? And is it because you certainly don't forget when somebody does when somebody harms you, whether it's emotionally or physically, that's never to forget. But to forgive, is that the disconnect there?
Yeah. I think there has been, I think the people that abuse you, they're not asking for forgiveness. And I can honor and understand that they are not perfect beings, that we're all imperfect beings. And I can recognize that. But one of the things that I tend to do is I can overuse empathy. And I am a very empathetic person. And that has also led me into probably these scenarios where I've stayed too long because I try to give that benefit of the doubt and that empathy to this other person. So in my process of healing, forgiveness doesn't come into it. It really doesn't. I would say it's more about an empathy for myself. That's part of it. Because the messaging has always been it's all my fault. And I'm not worthy. And those are the lies. And those are the lies that were brought on by these people. So I think the processing of the situation and working through and healing just the impact it had is what helps to move forward.
That's really great. So I know you started your business in 2019, correct?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about what your mission or vision was when you first started your business and how it's evolved and what you're doing today.
So when I first started my business, I intended to focus in the wellness travel space because that niche in the travel industry is less known. And it has been around for so long, but yet we're only recently talking about it and we're still dipping our toes. I realize I need to have empathy for myself, that it is undoing those messages of it's all my fault and I'm not worthy in order to create more healing.
Yeah. So in the travel, the wellness space, you did that for a while. You were passionate about making change in that space. But I think that now knowing more of your story of the trauma that you experienced and those life lessons, if you will, that got you to now become an international speaker, which is, amazing and everything else. What was the shift to do more of the mindset coach outside of travel and just kind of really embrace your story so that you can help others and help them find their voice?
I spent a lot of time reconnecting with my intuition. While I was showing up every day in my business and building my brand and working to build and networking and doing all the things, I was also spending time with me. And I think it's really interesting in the entrepreneurial journey because it's its own healing journey because you are faced with yourself every day. And I started to see the things I didn't want to do. And I started to see what my gifts were and where I felt drawn and where I felt connected. And it was unfolding in a way that I didn't think possible. And honestly, Angel, I fought it.
Really? It's like you don't.
There was.
Did you have that? I don't deserve this.
Well, it was very much like, this isn't me. No. Really? No, this is what I do. Who's going to think that I could do this? And I was putting myself in a box that nobody else was actually putting me in. But somehow I built these walls. So it took different iterations for it to really come to life because I had to fully embrace it. And I remember having these moments of like, I need to explain what I'm doing. I should probably make an announcement. I have to create change this way. No one's going to understand it. People will be confused. And it was really everything about people are watching me and judging me, and I'm not being perfect.
Yeah, and who's the biggest judge?
Oh, yourself.
Yes,
hands down. Yeah, hands down. It's like I always tell people when they go out and they're like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm worried about what I'm wearing and everyone's going to watch. Nobody's looking at you. They're paying attention to what they're wearing.
Right, because they're all thinking the same thing about their own outfits.
Exactly. Exactly.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Wow. So, you made this transition, and you and I followed. We're connected in lots of different ways, and I followed your journey, and I just love that you have decided to find your voice in this space because you have. It's unfortunate that your experiences lead you to this because, happy-go-lucky life, wonderful childhood, great relationships, you may not be doing what you're doing, right? But we find ourselves in a space where, okay, I want others to learn how to combat this thing called abuse, how to combat losing your voice. So I'm going to create something, my unique story, to help others. Someone once said to me, you don't play the victim card. If something happens to you, you look for the medicine to help others. And so that's what you're doing now. So as we wrap up, what are some of if you can give us 2 or 3 takeaways from what it was to help you find your voice, and then tell us where people can find you. It'll be in the show notes as well, but I just want to have you have that opportunity to kind of share what you're doing and where they can find you to work with you.
Okay. So for me, and what I don't want for you or your listeners is to have to hit rock bottom in different spaces, to have to go through these big T traumas in order to find your voice. But also to maybe recognize that you've got little T traumas along the way, and those are just as valid and also opportunities. So I think an amazing exercise to find your voice is to spend some time visioning around your dreams. And I say this really intentionally because somewhere along the way, we stop dreaming. We're put into these boxes, these structures, these systems, and we're told this is how it needs to be done.
Right. Yeah, kids, that happens at an early age. No, you can't do that, Yeah.
You're dismissed on it.
Yeah.
My sisters both had big dreams. And I remember I basically just wanted to be famous. First it was like maybe an actress, a singer, a model, whatever. And my oldest sister, she wanted to be an actress. And my dad would say, no, you've got to be an entertainment lawyer. That puts you in the industry. You're making significant money. My middle sister wanted to do special effects for movies. No, you should go to school and get computer science and this and that. And so I watched these dreams being squashed. Now, to his credit, he was doing exactly what he thought was the right thing to make sure that they had a secure financial future, and we understand that. And I can have empathy for that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I saw from the beginning, I'm not going to dream at all. I'll just find a steady paycheck that I can enjoy, and found myself in a career of people pleasing. So spend some time with your dreams. Do you remember what they used to be, or what are they now? And every area of your life. And I think once you do that, then you can see what's missing. And can I speak up in a way that will help me find this disconnect and create the dream life that I deserve?
Interesting you talk about find the dream, because one of the things that I talk about with clients and in some of the work that I do is, your dream job for now, make it the dream job. Do it and do it well and have fun and create that fantastic moment for yourself, or moments. It doesn't necessarily have to be that that's the dream job forever. Years ago, it was like you get a career and you last for 40 years in the same career, then you retire, and then whatever else happens after that. Today, people jump around so much, and it's like, no, I can't find my dream job. Well, stop looking in the future for that unless you really have a solid plan, goals, and make what's now the dream job and enjoy it in that moment. So you've had lots of dream jobs. And even in your entrepreneurial journey right now, you've had 2 different shifts. Who knows what next year might be? Another dream or, project that you'll want to shout from the rooftops about.
Absolutely.
So, Jackie, where can people find you? What are you doing these days that is exciting to you that you can share with the audience?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at Inspired Journey Consulting. My website is inspiredjourneyconsulting.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Jackie Roby. So those are all the places where I probably spend the most time to get the most insight, obviously, from the website. The things that are most exciting for me right now, I'm going to be speaking at a women's employee resource group. So I'm really looking forward to that. I have some group coaching programs that are phenomenal. One is called The Science of Magic, and it's a 6-week program that helps to increase productivity, reduce stress, build your happiness. And then Quiet the Self-Doubt Monster is a 3-month program that then leads into like a year-long container of group community. And, that's very specific. We are taking out those mean things that we say to ourselves that stop us from thriving, stop us from taking that next big leap, from living the dream that we want to. So I do a lot of work to help people who've been abused shift from self-doubt to self-empowerment, and how that plays out, as you've so perfectly laid out today. Can see how it showed up in so many different areas of your life, even past healing, through years of healing.
Yeah.
So I've been on this journey for 21 years.
Yeah. Well, I would say you've been on this journey probably since the first incident of 3. You just maybe couldn't have you had a different vocabulary at 3 that you have today, which is, wonderful that you're helping others. Well, Jackie, thank you again for being so open, sharing your story, and, giving some listeners on the show tips and about how to combat some of this. If you are someone who is in an abusive relationship and you're not really sure, reach out to Jackie. We'll have that in the show notes. Get a session with her, find out more about how she's overcome this and continues to heal and help others heal. So, Jackie, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. It was awesome, and I wish you all the best. And again, happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Grateful for you.
Yes, same here. Be well.